Well, thank you very much, Megan. I appreciate that. Welcome, everyone, to our March meeting. Here's our agenda. I've got some announcements and news, and I hope you're as excited as I am to have our speaker, Barbara Dickson, who's going to be talking about what it was like to pioneer in Ontario pre-1850. So this will be really good. And then we'll have our upcoming meetings afterwards. And if we have time, we'll have a chat session too. So the Durham Region Branch acknowledges the lands and peoples of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and a large Métis community. We recognize the lands on which we gather are covered under the Williams Treaties and rest within the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Anishinaabe Nation. We honor, recognize, and respect these nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and waters on which we meet. Well, I just got an email today from Statistics Canada wanting me to take part in a questionnaire. And it's designed to gather information about how and why Canadians use census data, the type of information they believe should be available from the census, and details of other data sources that could be used to supplement the census. So your feedback is very important. I do request, take a screenshot if you want to get that email, that URL. You need to help genealogists of the future by sharing this expertise and telling them how important the census questionnaires, or the actual census, which is a couple of years away, really are to genealogists. I don't know if anybody here remembers the huge controversy we had about 18 years ago when Stats Canada was not going to release, I believe it was the 1911 census. It took a long time and a huge campaign and a big compromise on our part to get it released. So if anybody wants to know about that fight, we can discuss it in the chat at the end of the meeting. But please take a screen grab of that URL and make sure you get the genealogist's point of view into Stats Canada. And if you find what the branch has been doing and the speakers that we have scheduled are really valuable to you, we invite you to go to our donation button on the left side of our website homepage and make a donation to our branch funds, which we use to schedule our speakers. And we use canadahelps.org, which means that you'll get your tax receipt virtually instantly by email, and that can be very handy. Don't forget about the OGS conference. It has a new time this year, September 8th to 10th. It will be virtual and has the theme of diversity in genealogy, and they're spotlighting the Grand River area of Ontario. So mark your date. I'm sure we'll be hearing more as the year goes on. Again, here's the details of the next free OGS webinar, Thursday, April 6th, which is it's actually after our next meeting. I'll probably repeat this slide at our next meeting. It's ancestral mapping using Google Earth Pro, which is a free downloadable application with a lot of useful features. I've heard it talked about before. And the webinar is going to demonstrate how diary details chronicling an immigrant family's 6-week journey from Ireland to Southern Ontario in 1847, at the height of the Great Famine, were mapped out using Google Earth Pro. So you're going to learn a lot about that program and how to use it. This is a list. I took it from the last OGS e-weekly this past Saturday. If you haven't already subscribed to the OGS e-weekly or Ontario Ancestors e-weekly, you need to, because there's so much information in that weekly broadcast. It comes out Saturday morning, and you'll be very glad that you are subscribed. There's a lot of things going on this month. Now, Roots Tech, the biggest genealogy conference in the world, took place this past weekend. So did you join? I quite enjoyed the classes that I was able to catch live, and now I have to go back and catch a bunch of the pre-recorded ones. And did you know that there are videos from the past 5 years from the Roots Tech conference? And I'm just going to enlarge this screenshot of their website. If you have a Family Search username and password, you can go in there and search and create your own playlist. You can go in there anytime without signing on your password, but if you sign on, you can actually make a playlist. And then you come back when you've got a spare hour and watch them all year, free. In local news, at the Lakeshore Genealogical Society, which is down in Coburg, they have a meeting on Wednesday, March 15th by Zoom. It's called A Genetic Journey by Jan Murdoch. DNA is a critical source of data in genealogy, far too powerful to be ignored or omitted. Jan's going to take you through a successful DNA journey where family members met for the first time and unknown members were found. So if you wish to attend this by Zoom, you need to send an email to lgsregister@gmail.com. The Uxbridge Genealogical Group, which is based in the library, has a Zoom-only meeting on Thursday, March 15th. Excuse me, is it the same? Somehow I've got the same date. So either it's the 14th and 15th or the 15th and 16th, sorry. It's at 7 p.m. and Jennifer Waymark, who is an archivist at the Oshawa Museums, is going to talk about newspaper collections available throughout the Durham region. And having said all that, I'd like to introduce our speaker. Barbara Dickson is a sought-after, award-winning, best-selling author, historian, public speaker, documentary film producer, and writer who has entertained, educated, and enlightened audiences for 25 years. Dickson's speaking platform mirrors her passions, commemorating Canada's bomb girls, honoring the legacy of the Irish people in building Canada, challenges and triumphs of 19th century immigration life, living with multiple sclerosis, and heart transplantation in Canada. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over the podium to Barbara. So just about our upcoming meetings. You heard this last month, but our April 4th meeting is going to be breaking down brick walls with our research person, Stephen Wood, and his team. If you can still submit your brick wall puzzle at this email address. Steve's working very hard on the several that he's received, and including having fun with one of my DNA puzzles. So look forward to that next month, April 4th. And Steve's going to go over the process of how he broke down or cracked or even added a little bit of information about a stubborn brick wall. So this is your last chance to get a puzzle in to Steve. We have the DNA Special Interest Group is meeting March 15th, Wednesday at 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about all the DNA news from the Roots Tech Conference. It is a private mailing list because we do share often our dashboards. So you need to email me at either of these two emails in order to receive the link to the meeting. Again, April 4th is Brick Walls. May will be about researching families in Scott, Reach, and Brock Townships, what I call the north of Durham region. June, Janice Nickerson is coming back and talking about 4 proven strategies for overcoming research obstacles. Almost a tag team with the 4th of April, Brick Walls. Don't forget that our research room library is located at Northminster United Church, and we are open by appointment the 2nd and 3rd Fridays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Fridays, because there will be more room in the parking lot, which is very small. So make sure you book an appointment with Steve Wood. He will try to make alternate arrangements if you can't make Fridays. But you may not end up with Steve, you may end up with me in that case, but certainly we are flexible. Now, Zoom is wonderful, very convenient, but doesn't really replace the in-person meetings. So we are augmenting our drop-in format to include social conversation, as well as any questions and comments and reminiscences, and even some lookups if needed. We've had small number of people out, but been very rewarding so far. So the link is up on our website, the blog, the Facebook group, as well as Ontario Ancestors event calendar. So everyone's welcome. Don't be shy. The sign-up link is on our website. You need to scroll down to just before our January meeting notice in order to sign up for the Zoom calls. And now, if Megan can do it for us, we can open up the mics and have a chat time. I have one question at this point, if nobody has another question first, and that's, did you attend Roots Tech and what impressed you the most? And I'm going to stop sharing so that I can actually see some of the videos if people care to turn on their video. So if you how can we do this? In your panel of chat and share screen, there should be a button called Reactions that you can raise your hand. And if you do that, then I will try and catch everybody who wants to turn on their mic and talk. If not, I'm going to pick somebody. So I have 4 people up here that seem to have their mics open, Pat, Ann, Dan, and Janice. Did anybody, any one of you watch Roots Tech virtually? I'm assuming you didn't go in person because you're here tonight.
I watched a few things, not a lot, because a lot you can watch later. But most of what I watched was DNA because I'm so floundering in the whole topic. And although I learned lots of stuff, I need to actually put it into practice really soon or it's going to go again. It was just a lot of good information, but still overwhelming.
There was one talk that actually she gave you homework.
Yes.
I think that was Diane Southern.
Yes.
She said, you got to go do this now before you forget.
Which I didn't.
No, I didn't either. But yeah, I intend to re-watch that one and start
Yeah.
sorting out my matches and see how far I get. Anybody else have a comment about Roots Tech? Okay. Let's see if I can. Joyce has her video and microphone live. Did you watch Roots Tech?
No, not yet.
Well,
Busy with other things.
yes, totally understandable. But if you go and make a playlist, you can fit it into spare hours or two further on. And there's a lot there. I think there's over 1,000 presentations from the last 5 years that you could go and search for. It's incredible. Okay, Stephen, I see you got your mic open.
Yeah, I do, but I didn't see Roots Tech either. I spent all my time researching your John Brown and for my presentation next month.
And I thank you for that.
And I'm more and more convinced that your John Brown is the same person as John Bush. I still playing with it, of course, but I'm just looking for my note here. Your John Brown was an iron worker and a molder in the couple of census we know for him. And the John Bush, can you believe it? I just can't find my note.
I do believe it.
I believe it.
Okay, and here we go.
Is it written on your arm?
Yeah, pretty much. I might as well. The other John Bush, or the John Bush, he was a molder in 1875, 80, and 90. So around the same time he was your gentleman was saying he was a molder up here. I need a map to check whether how close the locations are in the States and in Canada, whether your gentleman worked back and forth, was a molder in the same location or not. That's what we got to try and determine.
Yeah.
If it's close, I mean, Buffalo's not far away. So as far as across the border goes. So it just depends how close Bothwell and what's the other place? Well, Bothwell's where he was in 91, supposedly. So I got to look up Bothwell. But it looks interesting because it also works out, I think, pretty good on your centimorgan values as well. But I got to double check those. But
isn't there a Bothwell in Ontario as well?
Bothwell, he's talking about Bothwell that is in Ontario.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's where my John Brown and family lived.
Yeah, I think it's Zone Township, Kent County.
Actually, it's right up against Kent, Lambton, Middlesex, and Elgin. It's right back in that corner of the 4 counties.
Is it close to the border, U.S.-Canada border?
Well, I wouldn't call it, unless he could get down to the lake and take a boat across.
Possible.
Possible. It's certain. I do not think it would be possible for him to go down to Windsor.
Yeah.
It's got to be. Oh, let me think. From the 401, Windsor to Bothwell is probably a couple hours.
Oh, easily.
That's the biggest drawback in your project there. But
yeah,
I thought I'd throw it out there just to say there's been some progress anyways.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate what you've done, Steve. It's amazing what he's been building trees for all my matches and trying to find common names and who they were. Are all my matches related to each other and how? And so, like I said, my father's line is a mystery. And, someone arrives in Lambton County, Sarnia, and calls himself John Brown. It's hard to track. Okay. In the chat, I've got a thing from Carolyn who said her PC doesn't have a microphone or camera, so she's just made this comment for us. I have made a long playlist of Roots Tech sessions, and I'm starting to work my way through them. I have a good variety of ones on DNA and on traditional research, and so far they've all been great. Well, that's great. I'm so thankful that you found Roots Tech handy. And I have gone to 4 Roots Tech conferences in person before COVID. And I can tell you the energy in that conference hall is incredible. If you ever get a chance to go to Salt Lake City and go to Roots Tech in person, it is worth it. Mary Bronson in chat has said that I love Johnny Pearl's presentation. He is very optimistic about the direction DNA is going in and many suggestions from him. I think I may have seen that one too. I like Johnny Pearl. He's a great presenter. He has a newsletter too, a monthly newsletter that'll keep you up to date what he's been doing with his website. So sign up to that if you're interested in. His website's called, and now I'm going to pull a blank. DNA Painter, DNApainter.com. So, yep, there we go. Megan almost beat me to it. It's in the website, in the chat window as well. So don't forget how to save the chat. Oh, I've got 3 hands raised. I have to find them.
I think Anne put a hand up.
Yes, but there's someone before me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just me, Megan.
Okay, Megan's there. Okay.
I actually discovered that I have a DNA mystery with somebody from the society. I have so as I was going about 7 or 8 months after I started work, at OGS, which was 4 years ago, like 3 days ago. So, doesn't seem like it's already been 4 years. But I came across somebody on my DNA matches on my heritage, and it said that the person who, the name of the person who administered the tree was somebody that a name that I recognized. And so I went, wait a minute. So I emailed her, and she's a volunteer, a member and a council member up at our Sudbury branch. And we have no idea how we're related, but we have a DNA connection. And so, but of course, neither of us have the time to figure out how we're related exactly. But we do have that match. So eventually, sometime down the line, we'll figure it out and write a family's article about it or something.
Good idea. Thank you. Okay. Next one up is Anne DeLong.
Yes, well, I just wanted to thank you, Steve, because I'm one of the ones who sent Steve a brick wall, and he's sent me quite a bit of information and some research hints and things, and it's going to keep me busy for a while. Yeah. So I won't tell you all about it because that's for next time, right?
It's
Yes.
a surprise.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anne. And Pat has her hand up as well. Go ahead, Pat. Oh,
I have a couple of comments and a question. I'm really impressed with the knowledge of the branch, that something comes up in the presentation and it's instantly in the chat that somebody knows the answer. That's impressive. My comment.
oh dear. Oh dear, we lost her.
About the vegetation in Southern Ontario is I have heard that in the early days, from Toronto to, I don't know, Windsor or something, was entirely forested and a squirrel could go 100 miles without ever hitting the ground, all in the trees. So that's how thick it was. And my question for everybody is, I've never done Roots Tech. What is the proportion of DNA versus regular research?
Good question. I would guesstimate that it's probably 40% DNA related versus 60% methodology and other types. But
I would say
total
I would say you're right there, Nancy. That was my experience when we went in person. And then the last couple, it's Megan. And then the last couple of virtual ones, it's been a really nice balance because, and the nice thing is you get to get like sneak peeks of stuff coming down from the big four sort of genealogy and DNA companies. So, so you get previews like the MyHeritage, where the picture came alive. That was something that was debuted at Roots Tech and those sorts of things. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff around DNA and emerging technologies and ethics and all that stuff around DNA. It's incredible how much work people are doing with it.
And since it's sponsored by Family Search, of course, there's usually lectures about how to do global tree and how to volunteer and stuff like that as well. I see Edward has his hand up. Go ahead.
It's not Roots Tech, but you were talking about your Brown Bush connection. And I'm wondering, you mentioned ships, but I'm wondering about railroads and how they could travel then, because my great-grandfather basically lived near London, built a lot of bridges and dams in Middlesex along the Thames River. But he also had a contract to build a bridge, and I think it was 1885, but it was somewhere in that era, up in Kincardine.
Okay.
And that would be roughly the same kind of distance. And the only way I could see he could do it would be going by rail.
Yeah,
So,
I hadn't thought about the railroads, but they were definitely built at that point.
They certainly were. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're talking, the two censuses I have him on are 1881 and 1891. So that's the time period.
Yeah.
And they got married by taking the railroad from Lambton County into Middlesex County.
So just a thought of how, these journeys might be made and connected. Thank you.
The one thing I have to comment is that there's never been, I shouldn't say never, but I haven't received any comments from any of my Brown cousins of various names. And other than the comment that he disappeared one day and was searched for and never found. But there was no comment along the lines of, oh, he'd go away and leave us alone for a month or whatever. So it's hard to imagine him having a family in Kent County and then also having a family at the same time down in Buffalo. So, yeah. But somehow he's related. If he's not my John Brown, he's related to my John Brown.
And very closely.
Yeah. So very interesting. Any other questions? Not even about Roots Tech. If you've got any question, I'm watching the chat, or you can put up your hand. I'm going to save the chat now for me personally. Okay. I got that done. Okay. Megan's put in a link about Canadian Railway records. Oh, I have that book. It's by Althea Douglas, right, Megan?
Yes, I believe so. I'm just, it's by, yes, Althea Douglas and J. Creighton Douglas.
Yeah, her
Um,
husband.
Yes, yeah.
So, oh, it's reversed on my my computer.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Yes, it'll do that. But that's a
Yes.
great one because that talks about when all the different lines were, or all the different companies were operating in Canada, where they were operating, and then how to access some of their records. And through the different museums and archives and things like that. So, yeah, it's a great little resource.
I will read that.
There's also a group on Facebook called Ontario Branch Lines, Past and Present, and they
Okay.
have a lot of historical maps.
Ontario branch lines
Yeah, past and present, and it's a group on Facebook.
and present. Facebook, if I can spell it right.
It's a pretty active group.
Okay, so that's in the chat now too. Yeah. See,
Oh,
we chat.
is that a hand up or is it a bye-bye?
Well, I can see I have my hand up, but it's the same color as the wall, so I thought you might not see.
Yes.
Somehow you're very yellow tonight.
It's my lampshades.
Okay.
I wanted to ask because I've been doing a lot of work on the Family Search website lately, and I'm beginning to notice something I hadn't seen before when I put in somebody's name and they get search results. There are something called personal identification project or something. It's something to do with the Social Security numbers.
Oh,
And I don't know, I hadn't seen that before, and I wasn't sure exactly what they were.
Well,
So they seem to have people's birth dates and death dates on them, and I hadn't taken the time to look up and find out what they were. So I wondered if anybody knew. So
I don't, but if anybody does know anything about this, just put it in the chat or stick up your hand.
Well, I know Ancestry has social insurance information, and it does give birth dates, and the more recent ones give death dates as well. So it might be something similar to that.
Yeah, that's the US though, right?
US,
It's in the
yes,
US,
not
yeah.
Canada.
US.
Yeah. So,
But they're very helpful because you can tie down a person to a location and birth and death, and some of the applications give the parents' names too. So
Yeah,
you're way to the races in some of them.
that's good.
so
Good to know if you've got US relatives
Anyway,
or Canadian snowbirds who died down there.
yeah.
Maybe.
Nancy, just you were saying your image is reversed. There is a setting that would change it so you can see the way the rest of us see you.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to see that.
Well, the problem is you're used to seeing yourself in the mirror, right? So
That's
if
what
you
it
flip
is.
it around, then you'll be pointing the wrong way and so.
So anyway, yeah, I'll have to explore the settings. Thank you. That was Edward?
That was Edward, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for the comment. I didn't even know that was there, so I'll have to go looking. I'm assuming it's probably under the video.
I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay.
I guess
I
the
will
way to check is just to hold up some writing and see if other people can read it. See, I'm seeing it backwards on my camera.
Oh, so when
But-
I held up the railway guide, you could see the writing
Yes.
going
Yes.
the right way? Okay, then
Yes.
I'm not going to change anything. Okay. Any more questions? Because if not, I will declare the meeting closed. I'll count to 5 in my head.
Excellent meeting,
No, thank you. Thank you, Pat.
Nancy. Thank you.
Terrific, Nancy.
Okay. Well, I thought she was an excellent speaker, but the way she gave it it just built a picture in your mind, didn't it?
Mhm.
So at this point, the meeting is closed, and just hit your leave button, and we'll see you in a month. And we'll see some of you sooner than that, the ones who work on the council. And if anybody's interested in joining us on the council, we'll take volunteers. Good night, everybody.
Good night.